This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jim Cutter Diving. Welcome to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this day, November 28th, 1982, 40 years ago, the Edmonton Eskimos and the Toronto Argonauts were playing in the Grey Cup in Toronto. The Argos were hoping to get back to their winning ways. They hadn't won a Grey Cup since 1952. And they were trying to end that 30-year drought. Well, the Edmonton Eskimos were making not only their 6th consecutive finals appearance, they were looking for their 5th consecutive title. The Edmonton Eskimos were a giant dynasty. I mean, when you have a good defense led by Dave Fennell, a good offense led by dual threat quarterbacks Warren Moon and Tom Wilkinson, you know it's true. This is really some good shit. Anyhow, the Argos were trying their best. They hadn't won a cup since 1952. They hadn't been to the finals since 1971. And the Argos actually were 2-14. They were pathetic, a 2-14 team. And then they ended up getting Bob Bilovich, who used to be an Argos player, if memory serves me right. And he helped the Argos win 9 games and win the East. It was a legacy of greatness. Meanwhile, the Edmonton Eskimos, even though they had won 4 straight Grey Cups, they struggled in the 1981 Grey Cup. They actually were down 20-1 at one point to the Ottawa Rough Riders, who were 5-11 and somehow got to the Grey Cup through the Eastern Final. So, the problems persisted. The Eskimos were 3-5. They were looking bad, but they pulled off 8 straight wins in the regular season, and then the Western Final and the Grey Cup to win their 5th in a row, becoming the only CFL team to win 5 straight Grey Cups. And in fact, as of this date of taping, that Eskimo squad of the late 70s, early 80s are the last team to win 3 straight Grey Cups. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers had a chance to win 3 straight Grey Cups, winning in 2019 and 2021. Well, 2020 was canceled because of the pandemic. And in 2022, they went to the final, but lost on a last-second blocked field goal, and the Argos are the Grey Cup champs. Fuck. Regardless, this was a huge game for the Argos at Exhibition Stadium. And the Argos actually started out quite well. The Eskimos did score a touchdown, but then Manny Tolbert got an 84-yard touchdown catch off of a screen pass, and that was one of the longest Grey Cup receptions of all time. Argos were up 7-3. The Eskimos came back with a touchdown catch by Brian Kelly, and then the Argos with Conrich Holloway passing a touchdown to Terry Greer. And the Argos were up 14-10, and it looked good for the Argos to fight with Edmonton and maybe end that drought and the strive for 5. However, Edmonton would put up a massive shock. They would score 22. They would outscore Toronto 22-2 the rest of the way. The Eskimos took control. There was a giant wind thing in the third quarter, and it started to rain in the third quarter, which was pretty bad. The Eskimos used that to their advantage, and they sealed the victory for one of the greatest dynasties of all time. Eskimos 32, Argos 16, and Moon threw for 319 yards in a freezing rain. So the Eskimos won their 5th straight Grey Cup, and they hoped not to look back, but by 83, the facade had crumbled. And Warren Moon went to the NFL alongside Hugh Campbell, who was their Edmonton's head coach, to the Houston Oilers. And Warren Moon would be a pretty good player. I did do him for a Sports Catastrophe birthday boy, if you must know. Well, anyhow, so the 82 Grey Cup broadcast for many years was the highest Canadian TV audience of all time. So anyway, the good news for the Argos, in a sense, was that the Argos actually went back to the Grey Cup in 1983 and beat the BC Lions to claim the title. So the Argos did get their Grey Cup after all. But unfortunately, this game is more memorable than the Eskimos winning their fifth straight Grey Cup and at that point, becoming the last team to win to three-peat the Grey Cup. And then people say, "Oh, the Grey Cup's easy. You can have the same team win 3 or more times in a row." Actually, that's false. That has rarely happened. Anyhow, but the biggest problem about this game was to do with Exhibition Stadium in the first place. Yes, it was home to the Blue Jays at the time, and the Argos at the same time. So, yeah, if you see the field for Exhibition Stadium, you'll know that there was a lot of artificial turf past the outfield wall, which was, the CFL stadium. Regardless, the Argos were playing at Exhibition Stadium. Unfortunately, the players and fans would be having to deal with the rain and cold, the awful conditions. It was open air and all that. And a lot of the stadium was exposed to the elements. And the fans had to run to the concession area to watch the game from there because they had to cover themselves. And fans called for a dome stadium the following day. Fans would shout, "We want a dome! We want a dome! We want a dome!" And it worked out. The city of Toronto managed to plan things out and built the SkyDome. Well, it's not called the Rogers Centre, but it doesn't matter. And the Argos moved into that stadium in 1989, so they still had to play at Exhibition Stadium, and the Argos were decent. But anyway, the SkyDome would host the Grey Cup in 1989, the first year of that stadium existing, and they hosted the Grey Cup, which was a classic 43-40 Saskatchewan win over Hamilton, which saw Tony Champion's twisting catch, which was amazing for Hamilton, but then, Saski last-second field goal. Regardless, the Argos would play at the Rogers Centre from 1989 to 2015, and then deciding, screw it, we want to play at BMO Field. We want to play outside and all that. So anyway, once Exhibition Stadium lost the Blue Jays and Argos as tenants, it was demolished, but not till 1999. Then a few years later, they decided to build BMO Field, the soccer stadium, where Exhibition Stadium was, mostly to get an MLS franchise, Major League Soccer, and it worked. But BMO would be later renovated to accommodate the Argos for the 2016 CFL season and hosted that Grey Cup. Unfortunately, though, it's not completely feasible because the end zones are actually a few yards shorter than they usually are in the CFL because of how the stadium is. But it worked. Exhibition Stadium seemed to always get it was almost always Toronto hosting the Grey Cup one year and then another city, then it'd be Toronto, other city, Toronto, other city. It went back and forth between Toronto and Montreal for the longest time. This was the 12th and final time that Exhibition Stadium had hosted it as Exhibition Stadium. But of course, BMO Fields hosted a few Grey Cups. Anyway, that's just amazing what it could do. It was weird how Western Canada never seemed to get the Grey Cup until '83 when BC Place got it. And it's like, yay, Vancouver's got an indoor stadium. Let's move the Grey Cup there. But yeah, this Grey Cup led to the SkyDome being built. Led to Edmonton getting the last great CFL dynasty. The Argos could have had it if Doug Flutie had went to Buffalo. Just saying. And, Argos came back and did okay. It is what it is. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.